All right. Can you hear me? Am I here? Yes. And the microphone is working. Wait. Is this working well? Sound testing, testing. Yay, we are here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, whatever this live stream might find you today. Hey, D-Bag. Ooh, I've seen your topic suggestion. It's actually a pretty good one. I'm gonna put it on the list. It's a very good one for I don't know, for a geometry jam, for a coding jam, but it's definitely a very good one. So we're gonna do purling noise. We're gonna do. There's like some other noises out there, whirly noise. I think Dan Schiffman made an episode on whirly noise, which is kind of cool too. So we can take a look at that. I'm actually, before I forget, I'm gonna write it down on my notes. What are my notes? Geometry jams. How about noises like purling, like whirly, all that stuff we can do. All right. Yes. So we're going to take a look at that. Andres, hello, sir. How are we doing? All right. And what else are we doing today? All right. So we don't have anything pending. So record the curriculum for the. Okay. All right. Okay. So good morning. Now I'm back. Good morning. Let me do the official introductions. Hi, welcome. This is Jose Luis. My name is over there. This is Jose Luis here. This is Parametric Camp. We do live streams on computational design. We record tutorials here live in the company of wonderful people like D-Bag, like Andres, like Arasto, who just joined. Good morning, Arasto. Good evening to you. And then we chop those tutorials and we assemble them into playlists, and they become content that people hopefully can use to learn more about computational design, improve their skills, and be more creative. I think that's the gist of what I would like to do with the work that we do here at Parametric Camp. Now, what are we? Oh, no, and I have to, of course, if you're interested in being up to date about when we go live, etc., you can follow us on social media. We're pretty active on Instagram in particular, but you can also join the offline conversation that we have when we're not streaming, because we have a Discord server. I just posted the link on the chat, and we can also subscribe to a Google Calendar that we have, where we post events when we go live. So if you want to know when we're going to be streaming, you can do that. And of course, you can also consider subscribing to this channel, hitting notifications, and then you will get pop-ups, emails, and all those things whenever we go live or when we publish new videos, which we haven't done a lot this week. We only published the 2 geometry jams that we did last week. Sebastian RM, hi, you sound really familiar. Have you been here before with us in the channel? Have we met in the real world? You sound very familiar, your name. And Ahmed, welcome. Hi from Turkey. Teşekkür ederim for being here. All right. All right, so what are we doing today? Today is going to be a special live stream because we're not going to do anything. Let me clarify that. We're not going to record any tutorials. What we're going to do today is that I have invited the community on Discord and people who are keen and like the work that we do in this channel. I have invited everyone to be live here so that we can design together the curriculum of a new series that I want to start recording intensively next week or the week after or sometime soon. So that playlist is going to be called something like C# development in Grasshopper. And the topics that I would like to cover in general are anything that is not just typing code. Sorry, the other way around. Anything that is not dropping components, linking them with wires, and then doing like vanilla Grasshopper work. What I would like to cover is anything that involves development in Grasshopper. That means using C# script component. That might be using Python components, maybe. I don't know. Maybe if I get a fever or something, maybe I would do that. And but also especially development of Grasshopper plugins, for which you have to use C#. It's the standard framework that for plugin development. So what I typically do before I start a playlist is that I sit down and I write like a bunch of notes of things that I want to cover. I write ideas of things that how to link them, examples that we can do to illustrate the topics that we teach, and then I put them together into a curriculum or a set of videos that becomes the script or the roadmap of how do we record those tutorials, right? So I've always done that privately, but what we're going to do today is we're going to try to do that collectively. So I'm going to do this live on the channel with my note-taking software, etc., etc. And then what I would like to do, if you're interested in, is do this collectively with the community. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have some kind of note-taking software. I probably use Visual Studio Code because I like doing that there. And then I would like to take suggestions from everyone, either from the chat or either from the live channel that we have on Discord. So if you're not on our Discord channel and you want to be able to input stuff faster that I can take a look at, that will be through the Discord channel, and I have posted already a link on the chat to our server if you want to join us. Now, so we're just going to try to design the curriculum for the playlist together, see how that looks like, and then we will start recording that next week. How does that sound? If you're interested in joining or having some input on the content, you're more than welcome to stay. Otherwise, you may want to start your Friday a little earlier. Hi, Aditya. Hi, Juhair. How you guys doing? So, and we're going to do that. And just a reminder again, we have a Discord server here, and I'm going to be looking at the live channel on the server. And actually, let me post here on the server. I'm going to be reading this channel for suggestions on topics for the new playlist we will be designing on the stream today, which is going to be called C# or development or advanced development in Grasshopper or something like that. Because if I say C#, then maybe it doesn't, maybe just it feels like we can't add Python there. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm wanting to add any Python development there, but who knows, maybe sometime in the future we end up doing that. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to be reading this, and then so what we're going to do is we're just going to start. So I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, which I like a lot for taking notes, and I'm going to be doing probably I'm going to be writing them in Markdown so that I can do highlights. So for example, let's design the playlist, the new series the new series together. And then I can turn on Markdown Open Preview, and then we can see these things side by side. Okay, so for example, and so all right, so hey, beam coordinator. Oh, all right. Can I say something? Hold on, hold on. All right, so beam coordinator has been doing this really cool thing, which is that he or she has been following he or she has been following the playlist, the Intro to Parametric Modeling series, but they are more of a Revit and Dynamo person. So they have implemented a lot of the examples that we have done on Introduction to Parametric Modeling in Dynamo instead of Grasshopper. So if you're interested in that platform, I very strongly recommend you to... Wait, was this the BIM coordinator or was it this Dalton? Was this you, BIM coordinator, who did this? I might be confused. Anyway, so BIM coordinator did this, and it's really cool. So, or Dalton, I don't know. Now I'm confused a little bit. But anyway, we have links to this content is on OneDrive. So if you want to check it out, yes, you mean yes, this was you who did this, BIM coordinator? Was this you? We have links here on OneDrive, so if you want to try this out, you can check it out here. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for sharing this with the community. That was pretty badass. Yes, you are Dalton. Okay. All right, I got it. Thanks a lot, man. And you are a he, she, them, whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, and another thing that I wanted to highlight, and I forgot about it, is that I don't know if you are aware, but the Acadia conference, which focuses on computational design for architecture and design, is hosting this year again. The conference is going to be fully remote. The dates for the conferences are going to be in November from the 3rd to the 6th. There is a chance that students might get free registration. We are actively working on that. I'm not sure if we're there yet, but there's a very high chance of that happening. So if you're a student, if you're a professional, but in both cases, I very strongly recommend that you register for the conference. And this year, I am helping specifically a lot at organizing the workshops. The workshops for the first time are going to happen before the conference, but I mean really before, like months before. So in this case, we chose the dates of September 11 and 12, which is a weekend, for the workshops. And the idea here was that most of us, people in academia, students, and maybe even professionals, we have an easier time taking a weekend off in September because it's the beginning of a lot of things than it is to taking that weekend off in November. So we thought that by doing this, we would be able to give access to more people to the workshops. The registration for the workshop, the lineup of workshops is really cool. There's workshops on AI, there's workshops on remote fabrication with robots, there's workshops on machine learning, there's workshops on AR, VR, drawing, P5JS, even knitting. There's actually 2 knitting workshops. Some of them are going to be sending kits to your house, like growing fungi, etc. Etc. It's really cool. And of course, the instructors are leaders in many of the aspects of developing state-of-the-art ways of using computational design for architecture. So the registrations opened on last Monday, and there's already a couple of workshops that have been sold out already. So if you want to register for any of these, I very strongly suggest that you do as soon as possible, because spots are going to be all gone in a week or 2. So I very strongly suggest that you do that as soon as possible. You can register here, and I think registration is pretty affordable. Registration is $150 for the professionals, and it's $75 for students. And there's also a grant program. There's also grants for attending the conference for international students. So you can apply to these grants, and there's spots that are reserved for grant awardees. And there's also specifically grants for students from Mexico. All of those is sponsored by Autodesk. So we're very grateful for them, for the work that we're doing. There's also sponsors, there's also grants for NOMA workshop attendance. So for National Organization of Minority Architecture students. So if you think you are part of this collective, this community, you're welcome to apply, and you may get free access to the workshops as well. Okay, so but in any case, if you're interested, do that as soon as possible because we're running out of spots, and I think we already have a couple workshops that are sold out. So I will be around. I'm not teaching a workshop this year, but I will be around in the community, in the panel discussions, organizing things in the background. So we may have a chance to run into each other at the event. Okay? Alrighty. So, and then as I was saying, what are we going to do today? Remember, we're going to design together the curriculum of the new series, which is going to be called Advanced Development in Grasshopper. Since we're talking about C# with Grasshopper, might I suggest taking a look at Rhino Sharp too? We could take a look at Rhino Sharp. So okay, so we're gonna do two ideas. We're going to do let's just throw here like a bunch of random ideas. So topics to cover. Topics to cover. So those are going to be, for example, we need to cover C# script components. And in here we need to, so the assumption is going to be that viewers, I'm going to call them students are familiar with Grasshopper, otherwise point them to Intro to Parametric Modeling. Students are familiar with C# development, otherwise point them to learning C#. Okay? So that's going to be the assumption. We're not going to start teaching C# from scratch. We're not going to start teaching Grasshopper. We're going to assume that whoever is watching this series knows how to do that. And then what we're going to do is what we're going to start from those assumptions and advance. And then here, for example, I'm going to start putting here topics that I think need to be covered, but I'm going to do that without order, really. And then we will resort them and we will organize them on a playlist. Kind of, we will break them down by video, if you will. So C# script components, what can we do here? So in order to cover C# script, we will need to cover what they are, managing inputs, so data types and access type, so like list, like item, list, data tree, all right, and managing outputs, names, out args, okay. Then once we explain how we drop the Grasshopper component and then we change the inputs and we change the outputs, then we probably want to first steps into writing a simple algorithm. So this could be, for example, like some simple arithmetic computation, calculation. All right. And then after that, we probably, once we have explained how to use the C# script component, whatever, change the inputs, change the outputs, and do some simple calculations, then probably what we want to do is we want to do some kind of example. So example, a collection of arithmetic components. So this could be interesting because if we do a bunch of examples just with addition, multiplication, subtraction, whatever, if someone thinks that's pretty straightforward, they can just skip it. Otherwise, they can just watch the video. But also, it's important that in this example, we don't use any geometry yet, because I think I would like to take a look at Rhino Common. Because Rhino Common is going to deserve some special attention. So I would like to, what is it? Let's now start using geometry, but let's take a look at Rhino Common. All right. Okay. Can you see well? This thing is scrolling. Can I not scroll them synchronously? It doesn't matter. All right. So Rhino Common. So because Rhino Common can be complex, I don't want to start throwing people into writing geometry stuff before I talk through a little bit of Rhino Common. So what is this going to be? We're going to talk about Rhino Common. I'm going to explain what it is, which is going to be geometry, kernel, data types, and geometric manipulations. All right, we're going to explain something like that. We can go over real superficial over the documentation, maybe, so that but then take a closer look at geometry and the geometry namespace so that we see geometry types. The chat is very silent. You're more than welcome to give suggestions, talk about your own experiences, learning, development in Grasshopper, things that you found difficult, things that you found easy, resources that help you. We can take a look at other resources that help you. So just feel free to post on the chat or on the live channel on Discord. All right. I'm getting a text. Who is this? Oh, sorry. I have to respond to this text. All right, so where was I? Take a closer look at the geometry namespace. Hi, Steven. Thanks to you for watching them. Maybe speaking about the advantage, disadvantage of using single C# components to do everything in terms of performance. That's a very good one. So I'm actually going to copy paste this right away. Arasto. Here, advantage, disadvantage using single C# components to do everything in terms of performance. Yes. So we will address that at some point later. Probably this is a little early for that, but it's a very good point. Because definitely doing everything on one component is much faster. Are we going to make plugins for Grasshopper? We're so going to make plugins for Grasshopper, Sebastian. Definitely we are. Of course. So what else? Rhino common, what is it? Go over reals, take a closer look at geometry namespace. And then show simple examples of creating simple geometry like points, vectors, like point vectors, lines, planes, etc. I wonder if so that would be vector. I wonder if I wonder if we can be a bit more specific. Debug. Definitely, I would like to see a topic on meshes, mesh manipulation, mesh data structure, half-edge structure. That, I don't think debug, I don't think we're going to do that on this playlist because that's more of a geometry thing. And here I would not want to introduce or discuss geometry topics in depth. What I would like to discuss is how to implement and work with them with code inside of Grasshopper. So, but perhaps meshes and half edge and all that stuff can be a good topic for a small mini series or for geometry gems or that kind of stuff. Managing the output to desired data tree. Ooh, that's a good one. We're going to have to data trees as inputs and outputs. That's a really good one. That's a really good one, Victor. We definitely need to take a look at that because it's usually a problem. I think it's easier to start with and then inputs. So we're definitely, yes, we're going to take a look at data trees, data tree structures. Okay, I should save this somewhere. Where am I going to save this? Where is my desktop? Okay, so somewhere here. Okay. All right. Developing DLL files for custom geometry types. Developing DLL files for custom geometry types. What do you mean, Arasto, with that? I found check-ins algorithm interesting for your geometry gems. Please include curve closest point with C# on a curve, the Castel-Joss algorithm. We could use those as examples. I don't want to focus on geometry problems because we have other series for that, but those problems are actually really nice to illustrate development concepts. All right, take a closer look at geometry namespace. So we take a look at namespace. We show simple examples of creating geometry types like point, vectors, 3D, line, planes. And then at this point, we probably want to do another example. And then another example can be replicating a bunch of simple vanilla components La Grasshopper Sharp, maybe. I wonder if we can find a problem that is more interesting and that we can solve incrementally. Or like, okay, so I'm gonna throw this on you guys. So let's think, it would be great if we could think of an example, like a project. For example, a Grasshopper plugin with some kind of topic or whatever, but that we could develop incrementally over the course of the examples. So we can start here by developing like a prototype in C# of this plugin, and we can start with the simplest components. Then here we can develop geometry related components for this plugin, again in C# scripting. And then we can, on further examples, we can develop the more complex examples of this plugin in C# scripting and using data trees and using all the stuff that we learn. And then once we have finished prototyping everything in C# scripting, then what we do is when we move on to teaching developing a Grasshopper component, a Grasshopper plugin, a native Grasshopper plugin, then we use these prototypes, but we just copy paste them and we just adapt them to a native plugin. This would be really cool, actually. And maybe, like Arasto is pointing out, maybe for some reason, we also do this thing where we create a separate DLL that has a bunch of custom data types. And then we load the DLL as part of the plugin. And then we teach how to use a DLL as a dependency of the plugin and how to deploy and deliver that. That could be interesting, actually. Basically, how to create C# class libraries and use them in Grasshopper like assemblies. Yep. Huh. Yeah. Transformation matrices and intersections. Are you guys aware of the lecture that I have on transformations on my GSD series? Because that could be super useful if you want to learn transformation matrices and that kind of stuff. Ideas. So, can we design a small plugin that we can develop incrementally over the course of the series? What could be the topic? It doesn't have to be anything new, really. All right. Can you think about this? Can you think of a topic for a plugin that we can develop? And we can call it the parametric camp plugin, or which animal would it be? The Python plugin? No way. C#, an animal that has anything to do with C#. What could that be? I have no idea. Well, the name is the least important part. Let's think about a topic and a bunch of components that we could develop for a plugin. Okay? All right. So we're going to do that. Replicate a bunch of vanilla components at a Grasshopper Sharp. All right. So once we have done simple geometry stuff, I would like to take a closer look at more advanced geometry examples. So this would be, for example, creating curves, surfaces, subdivisions. I basically want to use this to illustrate idiosyncratic Rhino common patterns, like factory constructors, out parameters, etc. And then as an example here, replicate some more complex components, like see above. All right. One really hard thing to do in Grasshopper is scheduling solutions. Yep. That's not advanced. That's premium, professional. That's like serious stuff. All right. And then at this point, we have covered Rhino Common. We have covered simple geometry, more advanced ways of using Rhino Common, factory constructors, out from those kind of things. So I think we're in a really good spot. Grasshopper wise. Oh, we're getting into threads and timers. Wow, you guys are serious people. Whoa, okay, all right. I might be getting myself into trouble. This might be more less advanced than I anticipated, huh? Okay. I think at this point, maybe it's here. Well, this is Rhino Common, and then Grasshopper stuff. So maybe here it's a good point to talk about data tree as outputs and then inputs, and then maybe an example could be subdividing a surface in UV, for example, and the output is a data tree. And then another thing is like working with something that takes a data tree as input. What could that be? What could that be? What could that be? I'm gonna have to think about this. I don't know if a good example of taking a data tree. I don't know if a good example of a component that takes a data tree and takes advantage of the data tree as an input. Well, we should also start with Grasshopper stuff. No, well, we should probably start with like list as inputs and outputs. Yeah, because like we should probably explain that first. The jeweler in the room says stones on curve. Okay, can you elaborate, Spunky? We love jewelry, and I love stones myself. I do a lot of. I wish I did a lot of, but I've done marble carving, so it's. Can you elaborate on that, Spunky? An example of that? but if we're gonna do data tree, we can start by talking about lists. It's fairly obvious at this point, I think, but nevertheless, addressing it might be useful for those folks who have a little less experience. And probably we have already used lists as outputs, at least, in some of these examples here in the past. So we can do lists as inputs. Well, actually, now that we're talking about it, we could probably, what we could do at this point with all of this is do examples where the inputs are always single data units, because that will make things easier. Yeah, probably assume for the first, assume for this section plus Rhino common that all inputs are single units of data. Okay, Grasshopper stuff, and then here we're going to talk about data access on inputs. Difference between item, list, and data tree. All right. Then we have list, we have data tree. List as input and example, and then example. This example is going to be taking a bunch of points and interpolating a curve through them. Same for lofting a surface, for example. And Remo Sharp uses C# scripting for remote C#. Fine, let's talk about Remo Sharp. We're also going to talk about script parasite, which I am a huge fan of. Script parasite, but that's probably going to be farther down the line. That's probably when we talk about... no, actually, you know what? We could talk about this one much earlier. I wonder if we could introduce this earlier so that we have access to all the goodness. I think we may want to do script parasite here. This is becoming... Somehow I'm starting to order these things. Script parasite, access to VS, access to better autocomplete. And then maybe I want to use script parasite after this. Maybe I want to do this. Yeah, what would it look like to be developing I don't know, because if I record this using script parasite and at some point script parasite doesn't work well in the future, or it disappears, then basically the playlist will become fairly obsolete, and that's not nice. Anyway, Remo Sharp somewhere before we move into plugin development. All right. Okay. So data access, data tree, examples of dividing a surface into working with something that takes a data tree as input. What can we do here? Flipping a matrix? That's kind of boring. I don't know. Spunky, that starts sounding more like a algorithmic modeling challenge. Sorry, it's my mom. Yep. All right. I just hang up on my mom for you guys. So I hope you appreciate how important this is, how special you are, and how much in trouble I am right now. All right. Okay. So what else? What else? What else? I guess that's it, right? At the Grasshopper level. So we talk about data. What else? Okay, so before we go into plugin development, so like real plugin development. Oh, other things that we can do. All right. Other Grasshopper scripting stuff. That can be, for example, loading an external assembly. That could be something that could be interesting to explain here. Maybe I'm going to not. Maybe I'm going to move script parasite. I'm not going to be using script parasite on the list. Yeah, I'm not going to be recording using script parasite. I use it all the time myself, but I'm not going to use this here because I wanna get people familiar with the interface. Then we can talk Remo sharp here, perhaps could be interesting. Maybe we can talk about the advantage and disadvantages of using C# components to do everything in terms of performance. Maybe that can go before, after. This is more like a mixed bag of like anything that we didn't cover. So what else could be important to talk about with C# scripting in Grasshopper before we go into actual plugin development? In C# components. All right, I'm taking ideas here. Arasto. Did you say the P word? Did you just say the P word? Oh my god. What am I going to do with you folks? Oh my god. Long calls it script sync. Is that available somewhere? Grasshopper script sync. Not to brag, but what is this? Script parasite. Switch from Grasshopper. What is this stuff? Script sync using Visual Studio as a replacement C# code editor in Grasshopper. Okay. So, and is it available anywhere? Can we use it or can we share it? Otherwise, I'm not sure if we can talk about it too much. All right, but what about this? Custom graphics display. Ooh, this could be interesting. Custom graphics display. Yeah, custom graphics display, and then using conduits. I wonder about using this in C# scripting. This is a little advanced, perhaps. Display computes. What else? Rhino geometries with string editing using for generating blah. Yeah, but that's formatting interacting with Rhino model environment from Grasshopper, including geometry baking. Oh, I actually don't think that I know how to do that. That's a good one. C# delegates computational complexity, scalability, spatial data structure, using Rhino common R trees to accelerate 3D searches, blah, blah, blah. Parallel computation with the .NET stack. I should take this course. Yeah, Long is really good at these things. Personal project development, optional discussion. All right, advanced course, C# scripting and plugin development for Grasshopper. And when does he get into actual plugin development? All right. He shares it in his workshops. All right. Okay, well, so if it's not there, then we're not going to do it at the time. In any case, what's nice about YouTube playlists is that so long as we always have some kind of section that is more of like a mixed bag of things, we can also always record things in the future and then just add them afterwards to the series. Script sync is not available. I've done some of these workshops and he specifically asks not to share. Boo Long Nguyen. Not sharing is not cool. Boo Long Nguyen. Can someone send Long a link to this? Boo Long Nguyen. Hi, by the way. All right. Manipulating Rhino with Grasshopper could be really fun, like moving the camera or moving baked objects in Rhino with C# components. That could be really interesting. That's true. Custom graphic display, interacting with Rhino, baking stuff, display stuff on the viewport. Actually, I think that's what display conduits do. Boo, boo. What else could we do? Change camera. Although, honestly, I think those are kind of advanced topics that are a little off track of here. They're not really topics that build on to the topic of C# development. Oh, they kind of do something. Yeah, it's like alternative ways of using. Yeah, okay. We can cover some of those. Yediminas has a video on camera control. Victor, can you share that video on Discord? I don't think you can share links here on the chat, but could you please share a link to that video on the Discord channel, on the live channel? I may want to take a look at that. All right, so let's assume that this is more or less Gediminas Kirdeikis. Who is this gentleman? Ooh, all right. Animated camera in Rhino. Okay, so I'll take a look at this. Architect laptop buying guide. I might need to check that one out. All right, thank you. All right. Now, all right. So then moving on now to plugin development. So this would be the second being native plugin development. All right. So we have this native plugin development. So we have talked, at this point, we have talked about C#. We have talked about the Rhino commons, so all the geometry problems are over. We assume C# scripting is over. We have even taught a few advanced topics like custom displays and that kind of stuff. So, So things that we could do. Native plugin development. So now what we need to focus on is the idea of taking all those examples that we have done, hopefully, that are this prototype of a plugin that we're working on. And once we have that, what we want to do is we want to compile those into a native plugin. So a native plugin, the first thing that we need to start with is, so what is a native plugin? Basically a DLL, it's basically a DLL with a particular extension, which I believe is GHA, I forget, and a collection of subclass Grasshopper component classes. Do I want to get into that? Maybe I want to record some kind of introductory video where I talk high level. Also point to food for Rhino. Explain difference between C# script and native plugins. I could probably start with something around this. I probably need to refine this. It's a little bit, but more or less. So once we have introduced conceptually what a Grasshopper plugin is, then we can start setting up. So setting up Visual Studio for Grasshopper development, and this is going to involve installing VS, point to other video where I explain that, and then install the Grasshopper plugin templates. All right. So we do that. I install the templates, and then, oh, you are so right. Arasto, that's a very good one. That continuous execution. Should continuous execution in C# components plus an example. Maybe that could even be its own category because it's kind of important and interesting, and as a sample in some kind of physics simulation, perhaps. We could do a physics simulation here, maybe. That's a very good point, Arasto. So what is a native plug? Basically, okay. It's pretty here. Okay. So once we design this, the Grasshopper plugin templates, and now simple example of a Grasshopper plugin, adding two numbers. Well, before that, okay, I'm gonna need to explain, like, starting a plugin, name, etc. Anatomy of a component. Input, so constructor with parameters, input manager, output manager, and then solution solver. I will need to explain all of that. And then I'm going to explain simple example of a Grasshopper plugin that in two numbers. And then at this point, example. Here I replicate the simple C# components in native. All right. And then here working with geometry in the plugin. And then again, I also replicate. Example, I'm going to replicate all the previous C# components. All the previous C# components, you're right. Okay, and so once we have that, we're basically here conceptually. Now, at this point, it's probably interesting to explain how to accept non-item inputs. Data levels in P managers. All right. And then more examples. Replicate the components that take list data tree as inputs. Actually, I may need to talk about data trees in plugins. I forget what the structure was, but it's a different structure. It's not data tree, it's a different class that is used here. Data tree in plugins, the other class that is used in native components. Example, rep components. Okay. At that point, we have basically figured all this stuff out. And then native plugin development. And then here we can also now go to what is the next thing? Continuous execution. How to deal with that in a native plugin. And then loading external assemblies into the plugin. Continuous loading external assembly, script parasite, no, Brimo sharp, no, advantage. Maybe I want to speak about that in here also as well. Discuss performance gains. Oh, I may want icons. Icons. We need to talk about icons. Icons. How to add icons to this stuff. Yeah, something like that. You're right. Yeah, something like that. I've done it before. Was this? Yeah. Don't extend assemblies into the plugin. What else? Custom rendering. Custom rendering. Conduits. Custom rendering. Custom display. All right. And I guess if we're doing it here, why not do it here? Because then we can stop, display stuff on the viewport, but I guess, I don't know. I feel like this is already part of what the component does, and this is part of what we're gonna do here, and changing the camera is like a very specific example. I don't know about this. I don't know how I feel about this, but we're gonna leave it here for the time being. Custom graphics, interact, okay. All right. Python, ugh. Why do you do this to me? Okay, how are we doing? I'm gonna need to go soon. How are we feeling? How are we feeling? So, what other topics or things in general? It doesn't really matter where they go. What are the things do you think could be important on this playlist, or we might be missing here? What do you think? Let me take a look. Let me open Rhino in case. I'm gonna open Rhino. Gonna open Rhino. Assemblies, tool tabs, variable parameters. All right. Oh, fancy. I'm going to open Visual Studio. Visual Studio. Create a new project. Search for the template. Grasshopper. Oh, I haven't installed this in this computer. I haven't started a Grasshopper plugin from scratch here. Interesting. Okay, so screw it. So, all right, so let me open perhaps Machina for Grasshopper. If we can get into multi-threading and parallel processing of data, it would be really nice, but of course, it's kind of really specific and advanced. It is a little bit, yeah. And I haven't really gotten into multi-threading in the regular C#. In the regular C#, that could be a topic. Let me write. Actually, I'm gonna write. That could be an interesting coding gem. Multi-threading. Where can I put this? We could do just a small series on multi-threading in C#. That could be a good thing to do. Yes, it's kind of advanced. So here, the icons, the resources, and then, for example, we have an action. We have the base, exposure, the UDI, action code, solve instance. Yeah, I mean, this library is actually not a good example just because it's just so simple. Action issues, Grasshopper component, serializer, instance. Maybe I want to do an example. Yeah, I think here, example replicate Grasshopper stuff. Data access. So, okay. We need to talk about the additional code, section. Persistent variables, C continuous execution, utility functions, classes, etc. Do an example here. Show how classes cannot be shared between instances of components. I'm getting a little too much ahead of this, no? I'm gonna move. Wait. I'm just. What about if I move this here? And then, yeah, so additional code, continuous execution in C# components, learning an external assembly, and then therefore here I solve the classes problem, and here I solve the utility, persistent variables. Huh. Man, that could work. Yeah. Grasshopper utilities, component names, input parameter properties. I don't even know what this is anymore. Middle component. Oh, this was nice. I remember I was very proud of this. At some point. I forget why, really. All right. Okay. Oh, the Git tutorials. I think that's going to be, Arasto, I think that's going to be the next series after this one, because I really want to do that one too. I really want to do that one. What else? How to deal with infinite loops in reference could be interesting. And how do you deal with them? You just try to avoid them. There's no way of dealing with them. All right. Well, I think with this, I think I'm gonna. I still need a topic for a plugin that we can develop incrementally over the course of this series. I need help with that. So when you are tonight having dinner with your partner, sipping a glass of wine, and then the idea comes to you, right? Or when you're sleeping and then you're like, no, the plugin, whatever, wake up, leave your partner in the restaurant, whatever, just come back and type it on the Discord channel, okay? I want to hear your ideas. We need a good example. I would not want to do separate examples. I would want to do something that is continuous and that we build up upon, okay? So it has to have simple stuff simple components that don't use geometry whatsoever. It has to have components that use geometry in a complex way, and it has to have components that use continuous execution and custom display of geometry on the screen at some point. Maybe it can be one fat component. I would not want that, but maybe if it has to be that, it could be that. All right. Another exercise that could be cool. I wonder if one exercise could one of the examples be take a full algorithmic modeling, take the full code of another challenge and port it from C# script component to native plugin. That could be interesting. Because that's something that a lot of people will want to do anyway, right? 3D scanning using Kinect Azure. That's great, but that's definitely a separate video outside of this playlist. That's super, super specific. I think this is a good idea, actually. Because I'm assuming there will be folks who will prototype things in C# script, and then they would want to end up somehow encapsulating that into against privacy close code. Andres, may I ask something about the notes on the Markdown preview tab? Yes, so for those of you who might not be familiar, I'm using Markdown in this video to write my notes. Markdown is basically, we could probably do a video on this. Markdown is basically a way of writing plain text, period, so text that can be read by any machine, but adding some decorators, adding some special symbols so that we can add highlights and we can make certain elements have a special character in the text. And then when a markdown renderer takes plain text that has markdown symbols, that markdown renderer can interpret those symbols and convert them very typically to HTML. And therefore, what you get is a formatted text that now has headings, it has like large headings, shorter headings, it has code-like elements. You can do, for example, you can do italics here, you can do, you can do italics. So you can see here how now this italics. So here you can do, for example, you can do this and now it becomes bold, right? And then it gets rendered like that. So now the preview here in Visual Studio Code, this is rendered right now as, I believe it's rich text format. So if I actually copy that and I open, for example, Microsoft Word and I paste it, oops. So let me just copy all of this. All right, and I don't know what's going on. All right, so okay, so maybe I'm wrong. It happens sometimes, okay? All right, sometimes, not very often, but sometimes, okay? So Markdown, print current document to HTML. No valid Markdown file here. So Markdown, open, print to HTML. And where no valid Markdown file? What? Markdown, print documents to HTML. Markdown, resulting in an error. Running the blah, blah, blah failed. Okay, so maybe I can't. PDF. I don't know. No, well, so I can't do it from here. But anyway, there are many places where you can load Markdown text and then you can just render it as HTML on your screen, and then you can print that HTML into a PDF. All right, like that. And actually, for example, I use a lot of Google Paper for Dropbox, right? I use a lot of that, and Dropbox actually, Paper takes Markdown. So I believe if I do this, you see, it already highlights things with italics, with bold, and then I can print this, or I can present this, you know, and it gives me this automated presentation, like for example, advanced. So we're going to do this assumption. These are the topics that we want to cover. This is this stuff, this stuff. This is actually quite nice. You see? And it goes over the sections. It's kind of nice. So yeah, that's it. All right. I think that's it for today. I have a bunch of errands to run. I'm going to take some time off this weekend. I'm going to the beach. So thanks everyone for being here. Thanks everyone who has been kind enough to be in the call today and give suggestions. As usual, I'm very happy to do these things in the company of smart people like you. And you actually gave me a few ideas that I would not remember. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sit this down, maybe take a look in a couple of days and see if something comes up. Then maybe try to resort this in a more structured, like video, like stepwise video. I like doing these scripts. It really helps me plan the series out. And then we will start recording at some point soon, like next week or the other one. Hopefully next week, because I'm going to start the semester very soon. I'm going to be very busy. And I want to have this early on. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure, as usual. See you on the next stream, whenever that is. And whatever that is probably going to be already like recording the playlist. Okay? Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Ciao, ciao.